Hello and welcome to episode 2 of Recliner Reviews. And for this episode, this is my all-time favorite movie, hands down, not even an argument, Transformers, the 1986 movie. Now, if you don't know what this is, I wouldn't be too surprised because when people say Transformers, they most likely think, oh, Michael Bay, that, iffy series and movies and whatnot. But when I think of movies, I think of Transformers, the movie of all. For those of you that haven't seen this, I highly, highly recommend it because it trumps every Michael Bay movie by like a freaking million, man. It's just amazing. So the movie starts out with a monster planet named Unicron flying through space and is slowly going to a little Cybertronian colony planet called Glimfall. And essentially in the opening credits you see him just crush, smash, and destroy this little planet, and it's just awe and just factoring just to see, how something so big can destroy a planet, and it's just amazing. Now, for those of you that don't know who Unicron is, I don't want to say too much, especially if you haven't seen this movie, but if you are familiar with Transformers lore and have kind of seen the media, you probably know who he is and what he can do. But for those of you that haven't really seen him, I definitely do not want to ruin exactly his origin and what he is. So the series takes place 20 years after the G1 series, and so some Autobots have made it back to Cybertron and are living on the moons while the Decepticons primarily occupy Cybertron. But we also have the Autobots which are still back on Earth, which have kind of got a strong foothold in it. And essentially, as far as the Cybertronian War, not a whole lot has really changed. It's kind of the same old story. Autobots versus Decepticon, Prime versus Megatron, and that aspect is pretty much the same. The story gets interesting when Megatron and the Decepticons learn that there's going to be an Autobot shuttle that's going to go and return the Earth. And so essentially, their plan is to hijack the shuttle and basically blitz Autobot City. Now this gets really interesting because we actually get introduced to a whole new cast of characters, which was pretty amazing at the time, if you ask me. And we get introduced to the new main character, Hot Rod. And he's kind of this happy-go-lucky, just young punk type of guy who's going to just prove himself and just be awesome and amazing. And we cut back to him fishing with Spike's son, Daniel. And for those who don't remember or don't know, Spike is the main character in G1. He's kind of the main human counterpart with his dad. And in this series, he got married and has a son. And that's kind of who Hot Rod is protecting and being his guardian. So while Hot Rod and Daniel are fishing out of the lake, Daniel notices that there's going to be a shuttle in land. He wants to go and watch it. So Hot Rod says, well, being Hot Rod, he says, that sounds stupid. Let's do something cooler. But Daniel is he's really insistent, wants to go to the shuttle. So they go race off and watch a shuttle. As the shuttle is landing, Hot Rod notices a hole in the shuttle and that he sees Starscream, of all Decepticons standing out there looking like Starscream. And so Hot Rod just begins opening fire, and everyone just goes crazy. Especially because there's a group of Autobots down below. They're like, man, what are you doing? You're shooting your own shell. And that's when it gets really interesting, because then all the Decepticons just pop out like Clown Car. And it's just Decepticon, and they all just go and start blitzing Autobot City. Now, as far as the rest of the go, I ain't going to say a whole too lot, because the Blitz of Autobot City is one of the best Transformers media out there, and I don't want to go into details. So after the Battle of Autobot City, a brand new team of Autobots is tasked to go and stop Unicron, which consists of Ultra Magnus, Cup, Hot Rod, Springer, RC, and Blur. And so essentially, these group of Autobots have to go and save Cybertron to figure out how they're going to do it. Now, something I really want to point out is the music. My God, this is some of my favorite songs ever. I mean, it just has just the 80s retro nostalgia, and it's just amazing with artists like Stan Bush and Lion and Vince DiCola, and just all of it just fits so perfect in this series and in this movie. And it's just absolutely amazing, and I highly recommend this music. Man, I mean, right now I'm really in a pickle, because in one hand I want to give a good review on what this movie, especially for those who have not seen it. I don't want to spoil it. So with that said, I guess I'll give it a kind of a final rating. And it's once again, this is just another, in my opinion, a god tier movie. Just one of the best movies I have ever seen. As it is the sole fact why I still have a VHS player. Yes, I still have the original VHS of this movie, and I love it. So with that said, I highly recommend this movie, and the next chance you get, go watch this movie, especially the fan of Transformers. And you kind of did the Michael Bay series, but it just wasn't quite there, because this is all of it's there. It's got action, it's got story, it's got amazing music, amazing writers, amazing characters, and I just can't praise this movie enough, especially compared to the trash Michael Bay movies, and I'm going to call them trash because everything besides the first one is
expletive.
So with that said, for all those who want to kind of figure out more or have already seen it, I will do a spoiler section. So we'll just go and hop right in the spoiler section, and then we can really discuss this movie and the awesome parts for those who have already seen it. Alright, so this is the spoiler section. If you want to watch the movie and you haven't seen the movie, go away. Please, just go away. Go watch the movie. Come back, please, for the love of God. This is one of those movies where the first time twists are amazing and you'll remember it for a very long time. And just please go watch this movie right now. Now, if you've already seen this movie, then let's get to the nitty-gritty, because there's some really, really awesome movie details, and I just love this to bits. So the first big shocker and the first big reveal is we finally get the first on-screen death of a Transformer, which is Brawn, and then Ironhide, and Ratchet, and then Prowl. And Prowl is probably the most iconic because he finally has that iconic look, which is when they die or they get shot, they just, smoke goes everywhere and they fall and their eyes go red, and it's just terrifyingly awesome. And this was, I believe, an amazing point in the series, because we finally get to see that it can just be more than a cartoon. It can be a little more serious, a little more darker, but it's good dark, and it's good awesome and good writing. It is me from the future. You left a part out. So I completely left a part out. I completely forgot in the original recording of the Optimus versus Megatron battle, which, I mean, how the
expletive
you forget that? But I mean, it happens when you're having fun, just making videos, just going ham. Anyways, so let's just jump right back to it. The Optimus versus Megatron battle is just another amazing fight scene, which happens to be interrupted by Hot Rod, but Hot Rod did nothing wrong. I mean, no matter what, they were both going to die, regardless if Hot Rod intervened. Anyways, so back to the big shocker. Optimus dies. Optimus Prime dies. That's scarring. I mean, when we're all kids, I mean, at least I was a kid when I watched it, that's scarring for the first time. I mean, you just see your childhood hero just die. I mean, it's rough, man. It's just really rough. Everything about that shot was just done amazingly and just beautiful. I mean, it just brings chills every time just watching or thinking about it. It's amazing, man. Megatron was also pretty much in the exact same state as Prime, and he wasn't quite dead yet like Prime, but he was just about there and was eventually tossed out by his own crew. No surprise, leaded by Starscream. The first time Optimus goes black, it's charring to say the least. I mean, everything about it is disturbing, and that's the whole point. And typically when we see them die, they have the typical puff of smoke and, you know, like Prowl and whatnot, but Optimus was the first one where they go black and just discolored, and you can see the life literally be drained out of its body, and that's just a whole other different kind of impact than just he got shot and smoke started. But this was a long and emotional scene, and just really well played out, and really well written, and just, I think, had more effect than especially any of the freaking Michael Bay movies. All of them combined together this one scene was more emotional, more impactful, and just better overall in literally every aspect in every way. So another kind of shocker is the second in command. And so basically when Optimus Prime dies, he gives the Matrix to Ultra Magnus, but in the Glimmer, we can see it's actually chooses Hot Rod as he's the first one to catch it, and it's kind of this awesome symbolism, like he's the first one to catch it, and he's, you know, the least likely is the most likely, and I just really love that aspect of him, especially we see how his character really grows throughout this movie. You know, in the beginning, he's really just gun happy, just go ham, and just really not think things through, and then by the end, he kind of learns his lesson, makes smart decisions, cares for others, and it's just an awesome character growth and development that I really love. So the next big one is kind of surprising, and especially back then, we really didn't see this coming, and it's the creation of Galvatron and his new Armado. So Unicron finds Megatron, or more correctly, he summons Megatron and turns him into Galvatron, along with Cyclonus and the rest of the sweeps. But anyway, that was another huge shocker, because now, not only is this Megatron, it's Megatron unwind and completely lost it. And he may not be Megatron, but Galvatron is just as nasty. And that is my favorite quote of him, and it's just so true and just amazing. The next major spoiler is, well, this is my personal, one of my most satisfying moments of this movie, and that is the death of Starscream, man. It not only is just satisfying just to watch him die, because he's already been a kind of whiner, traitor, whatever, crybaby, but it's really solidifies Galvatron's character, like, hey, I may not be Megatron, but we're just as bad, and it's just amazing. And no one, especially the Decepticons, were expecting Galvatron to come. It's, you know,
expletive.
He's a new leader, he's having his coronation. All of a sudden, Galvatron swoops in and Cyclonus, and they just come in and it's like, coronation, Starscream? This is bad comedy. And just shoots him and just blows him up and just disintegrates. And that scene is just amazing, because in a few short words, the entire Decepticon army is terrified, because this newcomer just came, blew him up in front of everyone, and it's just like, challenge me, I dare you. And I just think that whole scene and everything about it is freaking amazing. So next big shocker, or really not, it's just more of a big reveal, is the introduction of the Quintessons. And for those who have seen Transformers lore, you probably know who they are, or you may not. And for those who don't know, the Quintessons, well, in certain continuities anyway, they are the true creators of the Cybertronian race. And we kind of get our first look of their incredibly messed up society and how they act, and just love blatantly murder people by feeding them to Sharkticons. And now all of that is just amazing. So we got another on-screen death, and that is the death of Ultra Magnus on the planet of Junk. This one is a huge shocker, because the Decepticons win. Like, they finally truly win. After all these times, they win. Back in the original cartoon, the Decepticons really didn't win. I mean, it really didn't matter, because most of the times it was the Autobots win, and they'd win occasionally, but it wasn't that big. This was a huge victory. I mean, they killed Prime and Ultra Magnus. That's pretty big. And the most shocker is, now Galvatron's going to use the Matrix leadership on
Unicron,
which is another kind of cool aspect, which I think will be really interesting to see. Alright, so here's the biggest reveal. Literally, it's Unicron. Surprise, surprise, he's a Cybertronian. And he freaking transforms into a planet-sized robot, and it's
expletive.
Insane. The first time I ever watched it, I think it was the most awe, just to see, holy crap, that's a Transformer. That's pretty big. Now, actually, how many minutes do we got? Yeah. Now that Unicron has transformed, he's kind of revealed his master plan, and that is to destroy Cybertron, because Galvatron pissed him off. And so Unicron goes flying through space to Cybertron and just starts smashing it with his bare hands. And I mean, it looks like he's almost pummeling a really bit, like a giant beach ball, essentially. I mean, He's pretty much the same size as Cybertron, and it's just insane to see him standing on, just crushing and just killing everyone. So this goes to the next reveal, which is Hot Rod versus Galvatron. Once again, another amazing battle scene. I mean, the lighting alone is just, it's gorgeous. I mean, just the dark textures, the lights, everything is freaking amazing, man. And I highly recommend this shot. It's probably one of the best scenes out of this whole movie because it's the moment Hot Rod becomes Rodimus Prime and defeats Galvatron. And it brings chills, just literal chills as you watch it for the first time and even many times after, just to see the growth of an awesome character become even more awesome. So once Galvatron is defeated, Hot Rod now uses the Matrix of Leadership to basically destroy Unicron and kind of ends the war and basically brings a new age of peace and happiness. Fast forward to the end, and Hot Rod and all the survivors are partying and celebrating because it's the end of the Cybertronian War and it's the new age of peace and happiness. And then the final scene is Unicron's head just floating around Cybertron, and then the movie ends. Now, there are many, many more things I could talk about, but I think I'll just end it here because I think the video is long enough, and this could easily be a 2-hour discussion video of how amazing this movie is, but I think I'll end it here and keep it short and sweet. And once again, if you have not seen this movie, please, please, please go see this movie. It is worth the time, worth the rental, worth the whatever. Go and see this movie. You will enjoy it and have an amazing time. Thank you guys for watching, and I hope you had as much fun as I have, and if you had, awesome. So with that said, I will see you guys in the next video.